software is acting so crazy. If you kind of see me come in, pop out, my software this morning is acting utterly insane. But I'm back, so let me get ready. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get my last few things set up in 1 second here. And again, like, I don't know what's wrong with me today, man. Like, man, that mute button is not being my friend right now, right? Like, this is funny. But all right. So now I'm actually in here, right? How did that happen? How did that even happen? All right, man. I'm telling you, man, I don't know what forces are working against me today, but man, they're on point, man. These guys are getting after today, man. They're like attempting to sabotage me full time, like whatever's going on here. So maybe I'm doing something right. All right, I got some Gatorade. I just had a bio break, so now I can sit down and dig into this because I was actually excited to talk about this. Like, I was watching. Let me record this. I like to record myself too. So I was watching. One of the Lord of the Rings was on the other day. I can't even remember which one it was, but they had one of these, like, sacred kind of orbs that they had to snatch away from Pip, and it was bad. It was all bad business. So that made me think about just orbs in general, and like as a culture, orbs are also like a big part of what our mythological world is. Like, we forget about it sometimes, but orbs are huge, right? Where are you at there? Okay. Man, something just seems wrong. I don't know what it is. I'll figure it out here. Okay. But so when we talk about like a lot of magical settings, a lot of magical places, like orbs are almost central to it. We never give orbs enough juice, but orbs are deep in a lot of mythologies. Like, we know that already. Like, you get orbs. And we're going to consider some of the strongest orbs. I'm going to go all the way from Dragonlance orbs, Dragon Balls, all the way to Marvel's orbs, and kind of what these various orbs mean. And the first one up, like, so we'll go through 4 of these things, and each one of them kind of represents some older mythology and what they mean. Like, orbs are oftentimes like communication vessels. Like, there are a lot of times communication vessels. There are a lot of times like access to knowledge, and we get it. I mean, I think this goes all the way back to like the idea of the crystal ball, right? When we go back to like the crystal ball, we always assume that some type of ore or glass sphere. I guess it's something about, like, why are you off here? What the hell? Why are you not on my channel anymore? Oh, it started a whole new. Wow, that's even crazy for me there. Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay, so orbs have always been like, the crystal ball. That's old school. Like, you would go and whoever was like giving you like telling your fortune. Even like the Stygian witches, man, that's actually another one that should have been up here, right? Even like the Stygian witches, they had this eye. It's always like an eye or orb. And I guess because the orb is essentially, it's like an eye, right? Like, literally, it's that. And, so it's key towards seeing. Like, you draw an eye, an actual pupil inside of one of these eyes, and it totally makes sense. So the orb itself is central to our understanding. It's central to prophecy. It's central to transmuting, like language and ideologies. It's almost like making eye contact with your boy, right? It's that moment. It's where you look at him and you tell him, go back door, and then you throw the lob, right? It's that kind of communication, because eyes are all about communication. Like, they say, like, the eyes are the windows to the soul, then the orbs are the portals to, like, the divine. Like, in every single facet of it, orbs are that, man. Orbs are always special, not just for their fragility, right? That's a part of it. The part of it is that they seem to be these very fragile things, but if you start looking at that bad boy, they're absolutely seductive, and they are. So I think this draws on a couple of different things that just come out of our mythology, that stuff that we consider to be normal talking points, like what the orb is, why you mess with an orb, and particularly why you don't mess with an orb, right? So I'm going to go through 4 different types of orbs here throughout storytelling, like some various mythologies, like coming from very different angles and some different time periods, but all kind of having this kind of a central theme about orbs, right? And it's actually particular. And the main thing right now, man, is I'm telling you right now, if you find an orb, don't even mess with the orb, man. Do not, like, ixnay on touchy a the orb a. It's never worked out. I don't know one story, literally, I don't know one story where someone looked into the orb and it worked out well for them, right? So we're gonna look at a few here, but I wanted to get some people and get some feedback on, like, the orb. And we'll find the orb in a lot of mythology here. So let's kind of get after it here, right? So the first orb I looked at is the Dragonlance orb. And I don't know if you're familiar with Dragonlance. This series came out. This is the story of Cran. Like, these are the Dragonlance novels. And these are early 80s mythology. This is early 80s, like, very hardcore to the core of Dungeons and Dragons. They're very much centered in it. Like, a lot of the ideas in this series we would see translated into actual D&D. Like, a lot of, like, the groups, the healer, the mage, the warrior, the warrior, the paladin, the knight, the ranger. A lot of those different elements were all encompassed in what Dragonlance put down. So this is during the early 80s, and they were a branch off of TSR Creative Team, and I think they actually get branched off of one of the early Dungeons and Dragons companies, right? One of the actual game makers. So TSR has always been into it. And they're in the game along with this, they have a fully developed game board with this very Dungeons and Dragons game itself, based solely on this series. The multi-sided die, right? Like the enchantments, the building card, all that stuff very early on, right? And I remember playing it with my homies who, for their credit, were my mad hood homies. Like, I was the only one in the hood that was into this stuff at all, right? Like, I had a different group of friends. I had my hood homies who I kicked it with primarily, and then I had, like, my D&D nerd group. Like, I had my D&D nerd group. I had my kind of nerd skater group. So I had to, like, diversify my stuff. And to their credit, one day we're all just kicking in the summertime, and we're like, before that age where you got expected that you get a job, right? Before that age, and we had one, like, magical summer. It was me and my boys. I think we were playing, like, summer league, but we played, like, sports. We did, like, baseball or whatever. But I remember, like, it was like 5 of us, and we all were kind of tight. I think, there were 5 of us, and we're all kind of tight. So we was like, yeah, we're gonna kick it today. We do whatever, our baseball thing. Like, we would even get together and work out on chores and stuff. So all of our house responsibilities got taken care of, right? Like, if you had a big thing going at your house, the crew would swarm on it, so we get it done, so everybody else can just go kick it, right? That's how we were. So to their credit, these guys jumped in on the board game with me, despite the fact that they were not interested in Dungeons and Dragons or any of that stuff. But they all thought it was cool. Like, we had a whole game, and so the game was very interactive. So this world here, Dragonlance, is a pretty important world when we start talking about like foundational D&D mythology, right? Like, the foundational D&D mythology, a lot of it runs through right here, or at least influenced by this. So this is early 80s. This is Tracy Hickman and Laura Hickman, Margaret Weiss, and their larger team. And this debuts in 1984 with the game module Dragons of Despair and the novel Dragons of an Autumn Winter. So these things came together. And these orbs became a major plot device in the original Dragonlance Chronicles. It particularly picks up in the Dragons of the Winter Night. So it's difficult to credit the orbs to a single creator because they had such a big team, but they developed this early lore under this context. This is one of the novels. This is TSR game modules. Again, the actual board games. When we say game modules, and we're talking 1984, these were not video games necessarily. This is where you might get something like that, but these titles were primarily like board games, right? So we mess with the whole board games. And I had that game, man. I had that game well into my adult life. And I sold it before I was moving out of changing states, and I sold it. It pretty much intact, like there was pretty much everything to it. But it was a great game. So this dragon orb, it becomes a very central part of this, this world, this Dragonlance world. And what do we learn from the dragon orbs early on? Okay, well, now what this dragon orb is an ancient magical artifact that is created to summon dragons and bend them to the user's will. That's as simple of an explanation that I can give you on that. That gets right to the point. It's not merely a crystal ball that casts a dragon controlled spell. Each orb is an intelligent magical object unto itself. It contains bound draconian power and consciousness, and the artifact can communicate with its users. It can invade dreams, it can manufacture visions, and it can attempt to dominate whoever it touches. Like, that's why it's very dangerous. A dragon orb is simultaneously a weapon against dragons, a prison for draconic, consciousness, a magical beacon, a mechanism of mental domination, an intelligence adversary, and a test of the wielder's actual willpower. All this stuff in one. If you win, the orb makes the dragons answer all your calls. That's what you have to offer. If you lose, the artifact may turn you into the instrument quickly, and it has a well-documented history of doing this. It has broke some very, very powerful magic wielders. So running up on the orb just because you have magic, that it's not going to be no easy win, and you probably are going to lose. Like, more than likely, you lose out on this, right? And you're going to see some things about this dragon orb that are going to be repeated in some of the other orbs that we talk about after this. I have 3 more orbs I'm going to compare to this. So in this book, how do they account for the creation of these orbs? Within the mythology, the dragon orbs were created by the wizards of high sorcery during the 3rd Dragon War. That sounds like a brilliant idea. You're at war with the dragons. I'm going to create some weapons against them. And this is one of the rarely used occasions when all 3 orders of the high wizardry work together. This is an important time in career because they're very defined. They're very much set tripping in their mythology. Like the white wizards and the black wizards, like, yeah, they got static. It's gonna be a problem when I see you. Then there's red ones, and like, yeah, we don't trust you guys either, but you ain't necessarily bad. Then the gray ones, you right between. Like, it's a whole lot of levels between that, man. And they don't tolerate each other. They don't play that, man. It's not the, yeah, you're whatever. We have political differences. It's not that. It's on site. So the white robes are aligned with good, obviously, like that's the simplistic part of it. The red robes are completed to neutrality and balance, and the black robes are aligned with evil. So you hear that, Raider fans? They're casting a dispersion against you guys right now. You're gonna have to move away from the black uniforms, and they're too hot. Now, ordinarily, these guys don't work together. This is not a community. They don't do anything in practice together. They don't even believe in most things together. But they came together when these dragons were tripping, and they threatened the entire world, the chromatic dragons. And the wizards understood that if this goddess, the dragon goddess, Tachesis, gained control of the other dragons, then nothing could be able to stop her. So they temporarily put all that BS aside, all that internal set tripping, and stuck together to create these orbs. So they assembled at this high tower, at their main high tower, and they, were able to infuse all this and make the orbs. So this is when they were created. They're created near the end of the Age of Dreams. This is the final stages of this Dragon War. And the 3rd Dragon War ended approximately 1,000 years before the Age of the Lance, which is primarily where the stories go down. So they give you a couple of different weapons. This is one of the pairs. So this is an ancient relic. 1,000 years have passed since the time that they were created. So there's a lot of people, like, they know they're out there, but like in the towers were all since destroyed. So they were the orbs were at each of these like wizard towers, right? Like where the wizard's headquarters, right? You'd have different different areas for the good ones, for the neutral ones, and for the evil ones. So when these things got looted, and then there are like some catastrophes and stuff, so these orbs still existed, but a lot of times they were just lost, buried under sea, buried under ruins and things like that. So they were all there. There were 5 towers that were at Palanthas, Wyrith, Istar, Dalgoth, and some other city on this Goodlum Peninsula. So they were all created, and each one of them would correspond with the dragons serving the Dark Queen, right? So they can control white dragons, black dragons, green dragons. It's very specific. What do they look like? Well, it looks like that. It looks like a very charming, powerful, scary, cool object that if you're like most people, you want to run and put your hands on it. That's what it looks like. It's a flawless crystal. It's 10 inches to meter, right? And it's constantly moving, and it's constantly kind of seems like it's looking at you. And then when you're like, man, is it looking at me? It's like, I'm not looking at you, right? That's what it always gives you. Where you swear it's making eye contact, even when you look, it's like, yeah, I'm actually looking at that person past you there. Please, but I'm sorry, please don't touch me. So it's rejecting you and it's pulling you in because it's psychologically messing with you. You see these symbols and ruins that move across the surface of it. It may grow in size a little bit. It expands. When it's really under the control of a powerful wizard, it can shrink, right? The powerful wizard Raceland was able to put it as the size of a marble, and this allowed him to conceal it and transport it. So its physical dimensions itself are not even permanent. Its apparent size responds to magic and the possibility of authority, like it got put down. So it could look like an elegant piece of crystal, but look, like I said, it could look like a child's marbles. But if you see a really nice kid's marble and it looks like it has a dragon on the inside of it, that's probably a dragon orb, right? So it's very different than any orb that we encounter. In the sense that there's truly a consciousness inside of the orb, right? The orb has a consciousness that is in there. This is an artifact that can think on its own, and it does, right? Which is scary, right? This is a thing that has its own desires. It can actually make a decision to resist. It can even deceive you. It is capable of deceit. It has its own agenda. It can communicate with you at times you didn't want it to communicate and didn't even give it permission to communicate. Why would you wait, Dragon Orb, until I fall asleep? Because you want to sneak some stuff into my subconscious. You want to put it in my noodle directly, and I get that, and it's both insidious and mad efficient, right? We know that. It speaks to me in visions, and it doesn't share these visions as the objectives that the person is trying to get to. And a lot of times these visions, it's not making you, it doesn't show you an image of you hitting that game-winning jumper, right? It doesn't show you that where you're like, man, I woke up, man, well, it had a great dream. Yeah, it was game 7 against the Celtics, and then Kobe kicked it to me in the corner, and I drilled a 3 that closed the game. It's never that dream. It's a dream that it wants you to see, right? It's its dream because it's so realistic, obviously, because of its ability to cast illusions that it can start to break people down. It's driven people crazy. It took a powerful like wizard elf and put these dreams in his head that his powerful wizardry manifested, destroyed his entire land. So this is the power of the orb. Now, this is also, one of the orbs, which was associated white, actually is said to have possessed a complete dark elf. Completely took a dark elf who kept it at the ice wall. And this artifact was north, and people would pursue it. There's the orb of Istar, so they knew what that one. This is in the city that goes, it gets flooded out. And there's like 3 others. So they know all the orbs, and they made attempts for controlling the orbs. The orb is also about mental domination, right? Anyone attempting to command the orb literally risks being dominated by it. The user must possess exceptional intelligence. Okay? Let's not fool yourselves here. Exceptional intelligence, magical training, discipline, and strength of identity. Raw confidence is not enough. If Lorak was a king, is a trained wizard, and the ruler of one of the oldest civilizations on the planet, and the orb broke him in minutes. Do you understand what I'm telling you? In minutes, it was broken. And this was mainly leveraging dream manipulations. That's what it worked on. It drove him crazy, and it manifested throughout the land what was going on there. So we see who can use it. Like, who can use it? Advanced magical knowledge, exceptional willpower, advanced knowledge of dragons. Like, it has been wielded, and we know. Raceland wielded it. Lorana used it. So people have used dragon orbs, but there's always a price that goes along with it. You may command it, but you have to prove yourself first. And if you don't prove yourself worthy, the punishment for challenging and stepping up, man, is oftentimes catastrophic. Not just death or pain for you, but for the people around you. Sometimes the communities that you love. All right. So that's the Dragon Orb. Now the next one, I know you guys know this one, right? This is the Palantiri, which you know it from Lord of the Rings. Aptly called the Seeing Stone, right? And there are multiple of these. They're not singular. It's Palantiri, multiple. Palantir means singular. And these are the Seeing Stones of J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle Earth. The name roughly means those that watch from afar. That's to tell you some sinister stuff like that. They don't be giving this stuff names for no reason, right? Early on, marketing didn't have as much to say about, like, you know, what we name stuff. So they would really name it for what it actually did. It means, if it means those that watch from afar, then if you have a problem with those who may be watching from afar, then you leave this thing alone, right? These are perfectly smooth, dark crystal spears that appear almost black when they're inactive. Their size varies. Some could be held by one person, but some of the greater ones were far too heavy for even a single person or even a couple of people to lift. They were probably created by the greatest craftsmen among the Norlodian elves and the undying lands of the First Age. Now, 7 seer stones were given to the elves and carried to Middle Earth by their sons, by the elder sons, Elendil and his sons, Isildur and Anarion, after this destruction of this great kingdom. So they made it to Earth. Now what, or Middle Earth, I should say. Now, what can they do? Okay, a skilled users could direct one of these towards a distant location and observe what's happening there. It's the ultimate spy equipment. The stones do not physically transport the viewer, but they transported images directly into the viewer's mind. Distance might affect clarity, but it was not a barrier, like being far away. You could watch enemy movements. You could see distant fortresses and scope them out. You could see rivers and road, armies gathering for war, gearing move against you. You could see all this stuff. You can communicate with other stones. So within the stones, 2 users can use it for direct communication across vast distance. Now, you can also look into the past. It can reveal events from the past, although this ability was more difficult than control than looking at the present and required more skill. The future users could attempt to look, and the greater the influence of knowledge, that would allow them to go further back, like what they understood about the past. So so this is gonna be like, they don't necessarily have to reveal you the truth, though. That's the important thing. It is a little bit like iffy on what it's gonna give you, and then you don't know. It's like a party line. When Gandalf's like, you don't know who else is watching. That's true. When you pick yours up, whoever's on the other line, they have access to you now. They know where you are. What they can't do, like, their influence is more in strategy. Like, each one of them, like, their communication devices, they can't access a corrupt network. So you got a network. This is where Sauron and all those were communicating, because Sauron had obtained the Ithril stone. So he had a stone, and from that point on, like, Sauron didn't create a stone. He didn't completely control a stone, but he possessed enough knowledge and mental power to use it, far more than most people. He was very capable. So his knowledge became his captivity. He was using the stone because he wanted information. As a wizard and political strategist, he believed he could observe Sauron without becoming influenced by him. Psych! That was completely a catastrophic act of arrogance. You use that, you opened yourself up to Sauron, and then you got completely seduced by Sauron. That's actually what happened. You actually got completely seduced by Sauron, and that's why you became, corrupted. It was that pride, curiosity, ambition, all those things. So these things are all about driving away hope too. You can see the impact that it had. It was definitely has an agenda. So it was projecting images into all the supposed heroes, Mordor's enormous armies, Gondor's armies gathering. You were seeing everything that was going on around you through the use of these orbs. So it was like like I said, traveling to the past and the future, right? You could do either with these. They're very, very powerful. Even Pip had a vision, right? Pip encountered Sauron. Like, he picked up the phone and Sauron was like, hello, who's this? And who is this? It's Sauron. And that's when he got him, right? He was able to have influence just in that split second. So that shows you, like, you get a vision, and then, like, you see that Aragorn actually uses it and reveals himself to Sauron. So he doesn't approach the stone in the same way, but he uses it to secretly observe his opponent. He didn't passively accept the images that Sauron presents. So Aragorn was even different. So he wrestles the control away from it to show him, how they would reforge that sword, right? So we see a lot of good. Like, there's a mythical pattern that goes into this. It's clearly the crystal ball of the seer. This is Odin's sacrifice for prophetic knowledge. This is the eye of the all-seeing deity. This is all that stuff wrapped in there. This is scrying mirrors. All that things comes out of, or is reflected in this belief. So Tolkien does a great job in this one of really encapsulating. Very different than the dragon orbs, because it doesn't directly control the dragons of this realm, obviously, but it's very powerful tool for information, kind of the dark web, kind of information. At a time with no cell phones, this thing is God. Now, this is one of my favorite ones, man. Let me see where I had this one hit, because this is one of my favorite one here. And this is the Lochnar, man. This is one of the more famous orbs. This is one of my favorite orbs, one of the most feared orbs in history, right? The Lochnar. And this comes from the film Heavy Metal. Again, this is some American mythology. I'm very proud of that. It comes from the film Heavy Metal in 1981, an adult animated science fantasy anthology directed by Gerald Potterton and produced by Ivan Reitman. So we got a lot of great actors in the series. This is very much futuristic crime, sword and sorcery, military horror. It has cosmic comedy and apocalyptic fantasy, all in one film. It's great. I think there's like 4 stories in there. I think you might even get 4 different directors, and the animation style is different for each of them. So this is one of the, now this one actually travels throughout all the stories. So the Lochnar is the constant in revealing everything through this anthology, okay? So it becomes a very important figure. So the first thing you might query unto me is, what is the Lochnar? Well, the Lochnar is a living, intelligent sphere of concentrated cosmic evil. That's not a joke. It most commonly appears as a translucent green orb, jewel, or meteorite, or mass of radiant energy. Its apparent size changes dramatically depending on whoever has it and what's influenced and what it feels like doing. But this is concentrated. It literally is called the sum of all evil. And that's important. This is the sum. This is how it identifies itself. It self-identifies, and yes, it talks. Absolutely, it talks. 100% it talks. And it identifies itself as being the sum of all evil. I am the sum of all evil. And that's important, because it's not merely a claim to be evil. It is a claim to be the accumulation of all evil. This is where the truly corrupt and the cruelty and the greed and the violence and all that stuff become one conscious being. That's how powerful it was. It is simultaneously a physical object, a living intelligence, a source of supernatural power itself, a psychological contaminant, a cosmic force, and the narrator of an entire story. It does a brilliant job of narrating the story. If you've never watched it, it's great. Now, the Lochnar was created specifically in this movement by Lynn Bloom and Daniel Goldberg, and this is like coming up for the pre-existing Heavy Metal magazine. So this is where they created it at, again, in 1981. Now, the film never really gets into like the birthplace of the Lochnar, what created it, what the circumstances were, if it's a species, if it's more of them, if the original civilization is still around. It doesn't give us any of that. It just simply tells us that it's ancient and it's evil. It repeatedly says how evil it is. It's very proud of its level of evil. Believe me on that. It is a physical embodiment of evil. It's ready to go out unto itself and do evil things without any direction. It doesn't need you to do evil. It doesn't need anyone. I am self-contained evil. I am the sum of every evil you could have. It is a supernatural parasite. It is a force that existed before any of these known civilizations. It is a concentrated reservoir of corruption at its core. So the movie operates as a surreal anthology, so you don't really know a lot about it. It's literal time travel. It's changing size, changing location. It's just when stories may represent multiple manifestations, maybe even different worlds. So the Lochnar is less like a one ring traveling through history. It's more like a repeatedly materializing at different times and places where beings could be tempted or manipulated, like it was here. And the power of the Lochnar, man, Lochnar is freaking scary, man. They really should do another movie on the Lochnar, man. I go see that right now. The Lochnar is sentience and speech. It is completely self-aware, high intelligence, like next level intelligence for manipulation. It speaks, remembers, it will threaten you, it narrates stories well, it takes pleasure in demonstrating its influence, it understands fears and desires of living beings, it recognizes that people will pursue these things even after learning that it's dangerous, and it uses that. It is 100% all about corruption. Greed, ambition, hatred, sexual desire, all those things, paranoia, violence. This is like craving for hunger. These are all the things that it manifests. It is intelligent enough that its influence can actually overwhelm your mind. It can actually take over someone's mind. It can actually make you lose control of yourself and what you're going to say. You can become enraged or even physically, transform into something else, changing your size. This thing can project energy and disintegration type beams, or whatever it hits, it's going to die. It can reanimate the dead. We saw it in B-17 segment where it collides with the damaged World War II bomber and resurrects the dead crew to go on a murderous, to be a murderous pack of zombies, right? It'll change the size from a jewel to a full-on basketball-sized atom. Don't try to drill. This is a civilization scale influence. People have fought wars to hold this thing because it is a source of such amazing power. That's the Lochnar, man. The Lochnar, man. This is one of its more interesting qualities. Like, I really enjoy this story, man. I highly suggest it, man, because the Lochnar was breaking it down. It could do anything, man. It was building armies. This is like the perfect, it's absolutely a chaos implement. It is 100% an implement of chaos, right? The Lochnar. So, get after it, man. Get after the Lochnar. Let me see. I want to go into this last one here. Let me see. You know what? I think I'm going to wrap with that one. I got one more, but it's just like this Orb of Aldor. It's a living intelligence. It is in that mold. I don't know a lot about this one because I haven't read the series. I think this comes from the Bellardine series. Let me see. Belgardia. Yeah, I didn't get into Belgardia. I get the series, but I'm gonna leave it with the Lochnar. We've talked about a good three. Those are the three major ones I think for sacred orbs, forbidden orbs, I should say. None of these things are sacred, right? None of these things are sacred. But I'm gonna grab a bite to eat because, man, it is 12:50 and I'm hungry as a mug. And then I'll be back after I grab some lunch, and I'm gonna talk about genies in the next segment.